Hello there. Two major MCU actors were in a 90s romantic rom-com. Nope, we're not talking about that one. Oh boy, do we wish we were though. Hey, note from future me. Yeah, I'm doing Only You next. See, I took the remaining list that I have and I put it into the digital equivalent of a Timbala so that it would be like randomized and I wouldn't be tempted to cherry pick. But these last three have got me on the ropes, so like, I need this. I need light and fun and frothy and something that doesn't make me want to run my head into the wall repeatedly. So you're going to let me have this. Yes. Okay, back to Past Me. I'd never heard about it before. I went into this thinking maybe this was going to be one of those amazing buried treasures. Well, it was buried, but buried more in the way that a cat buries its turds in the litter box. This movie was not very good, but it is full of crimes, so we're going to talk about it. The movie's called Happy Accidents. Even at maximum charity, I can only say that it's one of those things. That's right. I'm not going to blame Marissa Tomei or Vincent D'Onofrio Thor for this. I'm going to assume that they both stumbled into a studio set and just sort of did whatever they had to do to get out, like some sort of cinema saw scenario, okay? Here's how it goes. So the movie begins, this is Marissa Tomei on the shrink's couch talking to her shrink, and her shrink says, why don't you go ahead and tell me how you got into this mess? Tell me about this man. How did you first meet? And the rest of this movie, except the very, very end, is a retelling. So we are going into the near past to describe the events that led up to her sitting on that couch. The movie starts with Marissa Tomei's character. She gets fired from her crappy call center job and then commiserates with the girlies. This movie does check the box of having one of my favorite tropes, the unhinged bestie. Unfortunately, her potency is lessened by the fact that, everyone in this movie is kind of unhinged. They get together over wine and a shoebox, which serves as a proto-burn book where they all commiserate about their failed romantic relationships.
The narcissist, the abductee, the bad drummer, the Frenchman, the junkie, the fetishist.
Well, we're gonna have to get a bigger size box. Enough!
Quickly evident through some catty girl ribbing that Marissa Tomei is the one that has the most losers in the box. She's a fixer. She just can't help herself. She pulls up to a little project and says, oh, hell, that just needs a new coat of paint and some curb appeal. Next thing you know, her bank accounts are drained and she's got a tattoo in her unmentionable area. Who can't relate? Now, somewhere along the way from A to B, she ends up on a park bench where she's just minding her business, reading a book. This book, by the way, we find out later, is smut. It's an erotica book, and she's just reading it in the park. My God, the book talk girlies have much to learn. But while she's trying to get into her friends to lovers, sunshine, grumpy pants, whatever book talk thing was big at the time, a man next to her on the park bench starts making chit chat. Apparently he's an orderly, and so he's just making conversation, but he seems very intrigued by her. And she unfortunately makes the tactical error of both making eye contact and smiling. So we already know where this is gonna go. The next morning, on her way to her new job, Marissa Tomei is stunned to find the same stranger standing right outside her walk-up.
Hi, Ruby.
Hi.
Hi.
How do you know my name?
Just staring up her stoop, holding
You left your book in the park and your name tag. And I looked up your name in the phone book. I got your address anyway. I put it back on page 45 where it was.
her book. She left her smut book behind on the park bench, likely in her haste to get away from small talk with a stranger. Again, you can relate. And when she says, why didn't you just call me? He says, oh, I just was in the neighborhood after I walked over here to the neighborhood. Oh, good. Off to a great start. Tell me why this man then decides to shamble along alongside a very uncomfortable woman clutching her smut book. He doesn't only follow her down the street, he follows her all the way to her new place of employment. And then follows her into the classroom because apparently her friend pulled the strings to get her a job as an English teacher for people that don't speak English as a primary language. Now, along this walk, you see a lot of Vincent D'Onofrioisms. If you've ever watched Law & Order: Criminal Intent, you're going to recognize this is where a lot of those mannerisms are coming from. The sort of cocking his head around from side to side, the dog being presented with an algebra question. He sort of ambles and shambles. Even his words come out kind of weird. Like he's just sort of rolling them around in his mouth like marbles, and then whatever comes out is hers to deal with. But suddenly, in front of this classroom of witnesses,
This is my acquaintance. What's your name?
My name is Sam Deed. I am from Dubuque, Iowa. Je m'appelle Sam Deed. Je viens de Dubuque, Iowa. Mi nombre es Sam Deed. Y soy de Dubuque, Iowa. 我叫 Sam Deed. 我是从 Dubuque, Iowa 来的。Меня зовут Sam Deed. Я из Dubuque, Iowa.
he puts on the gift of gab, and he's a polyglot. He speaks like 6 different languages fluently. thus winning her over. So after this, he takes her out to a diner, and they have a little bit of small talk, and this weird thing happens.
Are you okay? I'm sorry.
And this keeps happening through the movie. The first time it happened, I thought there was something wrong with Amazon Prime. So I had to go back and actually back into this movie, which I resent because this movie's 2 hours long. And trust me, by the end of it, I really wished I had the ability to watch it at 1.5 times speed. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah, this happens where all of a sudden he gets this sort of glazed over look in his eyes and then it goes backwards. And I kept thinking, oh, he's got head trauma. That's what it is. Okay, fine, he's got head trauma. Or, you know, maybe he's acting so weird because he's not an orderly, this escaped institutionalized individual wearing an orderly's coat. Maybe they're gonna find the real orderly stuffed in a broom closet at some point. Sorry, true crime girly, I'm gonna go there. Anyway, he asks her if she would like to listen to music with him. And in response to one of the most stilted date requests I've ever heard, she smiles and says, yeah, because remember our thing about Marissa in this movie, she loves a fixer-upper. So obviously, Marissa and most human people that live on Earth believe when he says, let's go listen to music, that he's gonna take her out to a club, right? The worst she's gonna have to deal with is that he likes jazz. Unfortunately not. Homeboy jumbles up to the apartment door carrying a turntable and a bunch of random records, to include Polka, which he immediately puts on. Marissa, sensing a long night ahead of her, asks if he would like some wine. And as he drinks it, he asks her, what is it? And she says, it's a Merlot. It's French. To which he says, doesn't sound French. Do you get the joke? He thought when she said Merlot and it's French, she was talking about the polka he put on. It's a real fish out of water. This never stops through this entire movie. It's like, there's a reason why there's not a manic pixie dream boy. It's because most women would look at this and go, oh, yeah, it's not going to be about reminding you to take out the trash so much as reminding you what a trash can is. This is a level of work in a relationship that I do not feel I should have to undertake. Bless Marissa Tomei and her fixer heart, because she decides this is endearing. You gotta wonder what kind of exes she had that she thought this was actually a good one. Lightning fast, Vincent D'Onofrio moves in with her. Oh, did I mention? Not only is he weirdly suspicious, very, very persistent, and not above looking her up in the phone book and showing up outside her house waiting for her like one of those Chinese restaurant mailers they stick in your door jamb. He's also homeless. He's been couch surfing with another one of the orderlies. This just keeps getting better and better. And so throughout this movie, you're watching this happen in excruciatingly slow small talk detail, and you keep wondering, what is this for? When it comes to most movies, I think it's given to understand there are message movies, movies that have a moral obligation, movies that want to make you think about the world in a different way. And then there's escapism movies, where the only thing that they really want you to think about is anything other than the life you're attempting to not think about for the next hour and a half. And at this point, I had classed this as a story movie, and I was busy trying to figure out what exactly was this guy's deal. When were they going to drop the big reveal that he was actually an escaped mental institution patient? Oh my God, if only. So they're dating for a while, and Marissa happens to find a pill bottle, and she's like, oh God, this is why he's so weird. Takes it to her pharmacist friend, and her pharmacist says, this is prescription grade Dramamine. Are you guys going on a cruise? She goes home, she's looking around her apartment, and she stumbles across a notebook. And in this notebook, she finds that her quirky little partner has been scrawling drawings of a woman and repeatedly writing her name, like a fourth grader substituting the last name of her favorite Backstreet Boy. Obviously, this concerns her quite a bit, and when he comes back to the apartment, she lets him have it. And if you guys thought that the head tilting thing was going to be the extent of his quirky boyness, hate to disappoint you, but misery loves company. You get to watch this too.
Just get the fuck out of my apartment! Get the hell out of my I tried.
Yes, you can't bring non-carbon-based inanimate matter back with you! Booby!
That's right. This woman tells a man to get out of her apartment and tries to push him out, tries to reclaim her space. And this romantic comedy has the lead male love interest shove his way back inside, then turn around and slam the door, thus trapping the woman inside the apartment with him. Abjectly terrifying. Don't do this. This is not romantic, okay? This is horrifying. This is when he decides to drop the truth bomb. Okay, we're finally going to know, and I'm ready for it. I'm like, you're a patient. You're an escaped patient. No. You want to know his weirdness? You want to know why he's that way? Because he's from the future.
2470 AD. That's in 471 years from now.
Oh, that's right. I hid it from you guys. We are watching a romantic sci-fi comedy because Vincent D'Onofrio's character is a time traveler. Better yet, he's a time traveler that got a picture of Marissa Tomei in the past and was so moved by her face that he slingshotted himself back through time to find her and something. And he holds back that piece. Don't worry, we're gonna get to it. And when she asks him, okay, so what's the drama be about? He says, well, it's called the drag. And the way they describe it is kind of like when you're doing deep sea diving and you come back up, the pressurization differential is as such that you're gonna get the bends, right? Same deal with time travel. He trebucheted back in time and his mind is trying to keep up. So occasionally he has these backwards forwards replay moments and they continue throughout the rest of the film. Now after this, Marissa Tomei does the right thing. She has a caucus with her unhinged bestie, and her unhinged bestie unfortunately diagnoses this as, oh, it's just like a fantasy or a kink thing. It's okay. I mean, as long as it's a good time for you, let it happen. Unhinged bestie, no, he forced himself back into her apartment against her will, no! And unfortunately, the rest of her friends all just sort of, accept him for being a big weirdo. Even the ones that don't really seem to accept him, they just sort of regard him the way that you would a food truck that hangs out in the parking lot of an animal hospital. Like, nobody's saying it, but everybody's thinking it. Marissa Tomei ends up introducing this guy to her parents. She gives a little bit of backstory that her dad used to like the drink until the bottle got a hold of him, until her mom had to put her foot down and say, no more. And they have a perfectly pleasant evening, and again, he keeps doing this dance between saying something off-putting and weird, and then immediately saying something redeeming. And you know what? I need the Dramamine. I'm getting seasick watching this guy. But he gets a bad case of the drag bends, and so she has to take him back to her apartment. And along the way, he finally admits to her that the reason he came back in time, specifically to this time with her, was because she's going to die on Friday. That's right. He came back to save her life. Now, Marissa Tomei, again, she's been playing along, but doesn't really believe that he's a time traveler. I mean, he keeps coming up with all these plausible backstory details, right? Like all time travelers have a first name that has 3 letters and a last name that has 4 letters. In fact, he ends up deducing that one of her ex-boyfriends that he meets, Tab, is a time traveler because Tab has 3 letters, whereas I would assume he was a time traveler because that is the most Ford prefect fake name I've ever, Tab. So she ends up saying, oh, so I'm gonna die on Friday unless I stay with you. That sounds like an implicit threat. Yikes. And so she bails, right? Marissa Tomei goes and talks to her mom. And this is where I've decided that this movie was in fact a story movie and not a meaning movie because, you'll see. Through their conversation, she says, I just don't know if I can handle it. He's just kind of crazy. And her mom says, well, the thing is that you remember how your dad used to let the bottle get a hold of him? And it's implied that things were really bad in the marriage and in the home. Things were bad at work. Like he was possibly going to put them into the poorhouse, if not a bad domestic situation at home due to his drinking, right? Well, her mom then says, see, the thing of it is that I asked him to stop and he stopped. But now he's just not fun. He's boring. I actually loved him when he was drinking. Just chalk up people's flaws as a quirk. Just roll with it. That's fine. Debilitating alcoholism, the insistence that he is a time traveler man, just harmless quirks. I mean, you're going to have some bail money and you're going to have to keep the neighbors from calling the authorities on him when he strips down to his underpants because tinfoil tastes purple to the magnolias. That's the motherly advice? That better not be the meaning of this movie. He ends up going to speak to her therapist, and her therapist turns on him and says, how dare you break the protocol? Because guess what? The therapist, her first name is Meg, and that's a 3-letter name. She's a time traveler too! Marissa Tomei is just surrounded by time travelers.
So you love her?
Yes. I always have.
But Sam, you know you can't change anything.
But you don't know that.
Do you want to give her false hopes? I mean, is that fair? Please, Sam, don't try to help Ruby.
But she ends up over at Unhinged Bestie, who passes her a pack of pictures and says, it's time to commit Crazy Pants Vincent to the box. She's looking through the pictures and she freezes. And she gets up and says, I have to go. And she races downstairs. Meanwhile, Vincent D'Onofrio is racing through the streets trying to find her. And they see each other on opposite sides of the street. And she starts to come towards him. And bam! She gets hit by a taxi cab. But then Vincent D'Onofrio rewinds time with his weird time bends. And she goes whoop, right back onto the curb A-okay. Because apparently all of this time, when he's been skipping forward and skipping back and skipping forward and skipping back, he was actually doing that to time. It wasn't just his perception, it was him controlling time around him, like a temporal thing. Never explained. Sure, he's a time traveler. Why not make him a magical one too? Why not? Time wizard Vincent D'Onofrio tells her to wait. And so she waits. She does not get creamed by the cab. They meet, they kiss, and out of her hand flutters the picture that she took from Unhinged Bestie's apartment. A picture of her. The picture that he has been recreating in his sketchbooks since before he even met her. It was true all along. Anyways, movie ends. That's the movie. Yeah, see what I mean? There's a reason this one was buried. Counting up crimes real quick. Laying in wait for her, and then using the forgotten book as a ploy to go to her house and sit outside of it in wait for her. Harassment, if not stalking. I'm pretty sure that time travel and Steve up there definitely didn't have the certifications required to be an orderly in any sort of medical field. So that's probably a fraud kind of a thing going on there. So that was also a crime. There's also him subjecting us to his dance moves. And then, of course, when she first initially tries to throw him out of her apartment, which, assuming that she didn't put him on the lease, she told him to leave, he refused to leave. That's trespass. She tried to shove him out the door, he forced his way back in. That's breaking and entering. And then he slammed the door shut, so that's false imprisonment. And this is what her mom cautioned her not to try to correct out of him, because it's part of his charm and flair. You know, again, in a spirit of charitableness, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this movie did not have a meaning, and the meaning was not just accept people being just absolutely bad for you. So there's your movie review. Aren't you glad I've started doing these again?